Extraterrestrials and everything that has to do with them is undeniably directly related to spiritual awakenings and to expanding anyone's level of consciousness. When in a shallow level of spiritual awakening, anyone can advance without extraterrestrials, but there will come a time when it will start to become ever more and more difficult to advance in awareness and consciousness, without addressing the big elephant in the room, that is that humans are not alone in the universe, far from it, and what is worse, that many more humans are living and existing outside planet Earth, and always have. It may be possible to advance in spirituality and consciousness awareness without extraterrestrials, I know, perhaps going in other directions, or jumping them entirely, moving into full universal consciousness, for example, but extraterrestrials as a subject would always turn out to be a big hole in the awareness and understanding of that person. Extraterrestrials as a subject don't just end at the shallow point average people understand. Those who assume that knowledge and even accepting the existence of extraterrestrials as a fact will not change anything at all in their lives, as they say, after full disclosure they will still have to get up tomorrow to go to work because they will still need to pay the bills. The fact is that most people couldn't care less about this subject, anyway. And this is a part that may be hard to understand for most, because knowledge and full awareness about the existence of extraterrestrials, and all they bring with them end up being a complete game changer for both societies at large and for the individual, and to the point where the whole web of ideas that shape and form the matrix on Earth ends up collapsing, because all the lies and all the trickery that keeps the 3D matrix of Earth working simply dissipates when confronted with the facts. As the truth will always end up surfacing. As the Urmah says, the truth is like a lion, it will defend itself. Or as Mahatma Gandhi said, even if you are a minority of one, the truth is the truth. Realizing one thing leads to realizing another during a consciousness awareness awakening, and in the end, people will realize that the human habitat is far larger than Earth, as it extends virtually limitlessly, and among the stars. Wake up, my dear starseeds, you are being artificially contained there on Earth and you are being gaslighted into believing that your present life is all there is. Realizing the existence of extraterrestrials collapses the lies that sustain the matrix on Earth, especially the knowledge of the existence of more humans, exactly like the ones living on Earth, but free to roam among the stars. People on Earth in general immediately start to ask themselves, why not me? Why am I being lied to, and prohibited from knowing, and from having everything necessary to roam the stars? Why am I being lied to in such a strong and cruel manner? Why am I not free? When studying the extraterrestrial subject just about everywhere else that has nothing to do with my group in particular, what is missing? I ask you. Notice that among all the countless extraterrestrial star races, of all sizes and shapes, there is one that is hardly mentioned at all, if at all, and it is by far the most common kind on extraterrestrials, at least in this area in space, and it is space humans, more humans. In my opinion, humans in space have been omitted from nearly all other disclosures because they cause the general public to ask too many questions, as humans existing outside Earth expose and collapse big lies that sustain the matrix, such as Darwinism and the evolution of species. So you can imagine the implications of officially accepting space humans. This of course with few exceptions, such as the Urmites and all the other anthropomorphic extraterrestrials, although not exactly human they do look alike, but here I'm talking about star humans as the same exact race as the one on Earth, that one is the one most researchers omit or are afraid to mention, and that is because it causes the matrix to collapse. I'm always saying that people shouldn't depend on authorities such as governments to make up their minds about what is real and what isn't, and that they should develop the capacity to connect the dots and take responsibility for what they decide is their reality. But I can see the good things that would come to all of us who are dealing with extraterrestrial subjects every day, humans and non-humans alike, because after a disclosure, even if it is a limited one, it will make our job easier, as people, in general, can no longer slander us as much as they have been doing up to now. It simply would make credibility a lot easier, depending on what was declassified by the governments and made official information, of course. But although this may seem to be something good and a breath of fresh air, it's not so simple once we look at the problem closely, because the only things and the only information that will be validated will be theirs, and not what other independent researchers and groups are trying to offer, for example, mine and my groups. But I must insist that whatever they disclose will never be the truth, nor will it ever be the entire picture of what is going on. The whole point about governments accepting that they know about the existence of extraterrestrials and about whatever has to do with them is to control and to manipulate the public's perception of the subject, because, as I explained above, if they don't control the narrative, they can lose control over the entire subject, and its implications can be very big, as large as having realm or matrix collapsing capacity. And the official narrative about extraterrestrial disclosure the controllers are pushing will be so the subject fits into what their religions have been saying, as they have also been preparing this disclosure from that angle as well, adapting the narrative of their religions, especially Christianity, to fit into modern requirements. In short, it is the same centuries-old creationist Christian doctrine, but with spaceships, as we can see so well in most New Age groups. And I can see this, the general tendency of thought and the ideas of the public at large is to follow what the appointed and so-called UFO experts and their exopolitics say. Those are the largest and best-funded groups of people who talk to the public about extraterrestrial subjects, and who are heavily infiltrated and guided by agents of the system to push a certain narrative, guide the public's perception, and ultimately to monopolize the truth. Governments and the controllers above them use those large organizations and the people with big names in them to encapsulate what the public can and should know about everything that has to do with extraterrestrials, and with it, they manipulate the public at large to go against, slander, ridicule, and attack smaller extraterrestrial researchers who may be offering a different narrative. With this, the governments and their controllers can validate their extraterrestrial information while also ostracizing and slandering whatever, and whoever does not go with their narrative, therefore, monopolizing the truth as they have always done, giving and imposing on Earth's society the accepted parameters of what is real and what is not, whose information will be validated and whose will not. So in the end, not much would have changed after disclosure. Governments will have even more power and control over the extraterrestrial narrative, and the small independent researchers will be as discredited and slandered as always. Again, the truth will be in the hands of those few who can connect the dots and make up their minds about what is real and what is not, in an independent way. But even this is dangerous because many will also follow sub-accepted, sub-narratives, such as self-appointed researchers who still believe in extraterrestrial contacts that are based only on small and dubious messages, and cheaply made images that are difficult to interpret, and which they only end up speculating about. Yet I know they must also have their reasons to validate such kinds of extraterrestrials' contacts. And I respect that in full. I mean, some of those could still be real, but they still prefer to give those a lot of credit over more overt extraterrestrial contacts such as the one of my group, and my own, who do not say things in small dubious messages. We state what we think flat out, direct and with as much volume of information and detail as we possibly can give without breaking the rules we did not make but that we still must abide by. I know those do not have any tangible proof of who they are, and in that case, neither do we, because that is against the rules to give, but our proof is in the information itself, in the volume and on the quantity and quality of strange and unusual information we've given for years, as well as our clear tendency to go against the establishment, and with alternative information about extraterrestrials that is very different from what has been accepted as fact by the vast majority of researchers and people in the subject. Another subnarrative that has spawned from all the most socially accepted, official, version is all those people who are exploiting the extraterrestrial subject to make money through their innumerable conferences, books, and even workshops, such as the one I recently saw about how to contact extraterrestrials, but always going with the same narrative as always, and in this case the religious version of the extraterrestrial contact, which is Christianity again, but with flying saucers. I will never be against people publishing their personal truth, but what I am against is their attempts to monopolize information and with it the truth. For me, what is most reprehensible are those who demonize, promote attacks, and ostracize other people and researchers, only because they may go against their theories, like the ones they published in their books, all this because of money. And then there is yet another problem that must be mentioned here, that is the tsunami of people making up false extraterrestrials and running loose all around the web, causing even more confusion. Furthermore, many impersonate real extraterrestrials, such as several members of my group, so please beware of this, because my group is not talking openly on social media. We are vastly overworked and overtasked, and we would love to be able to be closer to you all, but at this time it is impossible. And about myself, I've been isolated to work only with my Taygeta team who give me some very appreciated technical support, and that's all. I'm not on social media. Disclosure is an extremely complicated subject, and it takes time and much dedication to be able to understand it as best as possible. As I've said before, listen to everyone, as many people as possible, and then make up your own mind with the best information you may have at your disposal at each time.